This meeting of the Community Development Board is called to order on Tuesday, March 16, 2021 at 1 p.m. Welcome, everyone. I'd ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Board members, we have a couple of housekeeping and procedural things to take care of before we move on today. The first is we are without a formally designated chair and vice chair again today. Board member Lau has been gracious enough to volunteer to me privately to run today's meeting. So if one of you would be kind enough to make a motion to appoint board member Lau to preside at today's meeting, I would appreciate it.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none. And board member Lau, before I turn it over to you, I'm going to note also that between the agenda that was published late last week and the agenda we just got here today, the annual election of officers for the board that takes place in March has been, it dropped off the menu for today. So we need to put it back on. I would suggest to you that you either do it, your appointment obviously is for today's meeting, though you, due to your volunteering, may find yourself saddled with the chairmanship moving forward. Nevertheless, we do need to have that annual election of the chair and vice chair today at the March meeting. I would suggest that it be placed on the agenda either following the substantive application in G or director's items in H. Either way, I'd like you to make a motion, someone to make a motion to amend the agenda to place back on the agenda the appointment of the chair and vice chair.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to put back on the agenda the appointment of chair and vice chair positions.
Second.
All right, and for clarification, you want to do it after director's items before we adjourn? That'll be the last thing we do.
Thank you. Yes, after the director's items.
All right, so amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, then I will turn it over to board member Lau to continue the meeting.
All right. Welcome, everyone. This board consists of 7 members and 1 alternate who are appointed by the City Council and serve voluntarily. I am Mary Lau, and I will ask the other members and staff to introduce themselves, beginning on my left.
Mike Flannery. Ryan Barker.
Jay Daniel, attorney for the board.
Michael Foligno, Assistant City Attorney.
Ilse Costa. Andy Park.
Jordan Behar.
Please remember to turn off your cell phones so that they do not become a distraction during the meeting. Please also refrain from having conversations in this room so we might hear all the testimony given today. To ensure a complete record of this board's actions, we ask that each individual wishing to speak, including the applicant, speak into the microphone at the podium in front of us. Clearly state your name and spell your last name for the clerk. Now I will ask all those in attendance today who plan to speak to please rise and be sworn in by the clerk.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the entire truth? Thank you.
Agendas of today's meeting are on the podium to your left near the entry door. Also on this podium are a roster of the Community Development Board, the list of city staff experts and their resumes, the board's rules of procedures, and the annual schedule of this board. The first item on our agenda today is pleasantly to welcome our new board member, Andrew Park. Andrew, if you could just say 2 words about your background, and that would be nice.
Sure. Andrew Park, involved in primarily commercial construction with a little bit of real estate development, born and raised here in Clearwater, and with the exception of 4 years of school, I've lived here my whole life.
Great. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Next, we have approval of the minutes from the meeting of February 16th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the board minutes are approved. At this point, the next thing is the citizens to be heard regarding any items that are not on the agenda. Does anyone here wish to speak today on something that's not on our actual agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. Our regular agenda is the next item coming up. We have 1 item on the regular agenda that was continued from the February 16th, 2021 meeting. That is case FLD 2020-11025, 939 Eldridge Street. The owner is Habitat for Humanity of Pinellas County, and the applicant is Ken Rush from Habitat for Humanity. It's located at the corner of Eldridge Street and Pennsylvania Avenue, requesting to build a proposed detached dwelling in the medium-density residential district for this property. This type of case is a quasi-judicial case. It's a level 2 case, and all level 2 cases, such as flexible development, are considered quasi-judicial hearings. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the Community Development Board reviews the application, the staff report, correspondence, and all evidence presented today, and makes a final decision subject to appeal. This board has previously qualified the city staff who will testify as experts in their area of professional training, education, and experience. The list of city staff experts and their resumes are in the handbook on the podium near the entry door. Any other professionals who desire to be qualified as an expert shall so request at the beginning of the case and present a resume to each board member. The board shall determine whether or not to qualify the person as an expert and in what field of study. At the beginning of each level 2 case, I will ask for anyone who wishes to request party status to come forward and state your reasons. Party status may be granted if the person requesting such status demonstrates that he's a substantially affected person. The board will then determine whether or not to grant party status, and then the case will proceed as follows. A request for party status, and we have a small group today. Is there anyone here who wishes to request party status for this item? All right, then we'll proceed with presentation by planning and development staff, presentation by the applicant, presentation by persons with party status, not in this case, cross-examination of witnesses by planning and development staff, cross-examination of witnesses by applicant, comments by the public, closing remarks by planning and development staff, closing remarks by persons granted party status, and closing remarks by applicant. And we'll close the public hearing. There'll be a discussion and vote by the board. I've read the description of the case, so Mr. Perry, if you would like to begin.
Yes, thank you. Mark Perry, Planning and Development. The site is currently vacant, and as noted, it's in the medium-density residential zoning district. Detached dwellings are a listed permitted use in that zoning district. The request is essentially to reduce the east front setback from 25 feet to 15 feet. That's primarily to allow the house to be moved a little further over to the east. The house immediately adjacent to the west is pretty much right on the property line, so the main goal is to provide additional space between the proposed house and the existing one. The staff has reviewed this. It went to the January 7th, 2021 Development Review Committee meeting. Staff is recommending approval based on a series of findings of facts and conclusions of law. There are 7 conditions of approval. I think all of them are pretty much boilerplate conditions of approval. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Does anyone on the board have questions for Mr. Perry? All right, thank you.
I guess one real quick question, which isn't direct to this, but I'm actually curious as to why this is a level 2 application. I thought setback reductions were within the purview of level 1.
Usually, in the medium-density residential district, the flexibility, for some reason, for detached dwellings to reduce a front setback is not listed in the level 1 flexible standard development table. The only opportunity is as a level 2 flexible development. That's really it. Why it was written that way, I'm not quite sure.
I don't know. I might suggest that we look at that as a potential code amendment. It seems like it's something that's able to be handled in most cases, so it seems like it's missing.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, thank you. Any presentation by the applicant today?
My name's Ken Rush, R-U-S-H. I am the COO at Habitat for Humanity. Thank you all for meeting this afternoon and hearing our case. I'll be very, very brief. Habitat has been working in the community, especially Clearwater, for many, many years now. I won't tell you the number, but it's a bunch. We're nearly at our 650th house here in Pinellas County in West Pasco, and we are actually working earnestly to work on the North Greenwood community right now for redevelopment. So lots that become available that we can afford, we're moving forward with. We've been applying on several occasions for items exactly like this, and we would consider the approval for this application. And I'll take any questions if you have any.
Any questions, board?
No
Right.
question, just want to thank you for what you do.
Yes,
Thank you.
agreed. All right, any cross-examination by the planning staff? No. All right, and any cross-examination by the applicant? All right, closing remarks, Mr. Perry? No. Closing remarks by the applicant? All right, that closes the public hearing. Any discussion? Or are we prepared to take a vote? Somebody have a motion?
I can make a motion if I borrow a book. Move to approve case number FLD 2020-11025 based on the evidence and testimony presented in the application, the staff report, and at today's hearing, and hereby adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law stated in the staff report with conditions of approval as listed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Project's approved. At this point, it's time for director's items, if any.
I don't have anything to do.
All right. Then that brings us to the election of chair and vice chair for the year.
I would move to nominate Mary Loudon to serve as chair.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And then we need to nominate someone as the vice chair. Does anyone have a nomination for vice chair?
Well, it may be a little sneaky, but seeing as one of our more experienced members are not here today, it might be nice to put Mr. Quattrocchi up for the vice chair position. I'm sure he'll appreciate that.
You guys were nicer to him today than I
I'll second that.
All
I
right.
think that was the motion, right?
That was my motion, yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, then Mr. Quattrocchi will be our vice chair for the year. And it's a good year for him to do that. I have looked at my schedule and I don't really expect to miss any meetings, so it may not be quite as difficult as he might think when he first hears about it. All right, is there any other business come before the board today? We are adjourned.
All right.
Thank you, Mary, for thinking on this.